The Sandy and Toddcast is a Mindgarden Media podcast in association with
Screw You, Todd
Productions.
Broadcasting from two very different yet magical places not found on any map. Get ready to discuss the strange, weird, ghostly, crazy, spooky, and odd things that take place around us each and every day. All while having a little bit of fun. This is the Sandy and Toddcast.
Welcome to the Sandy and Toddcast. She is Sandy.
He is Todd.
And this is season 15, kind of. It's like a prequel to season 15. Just kind of a stop down and check in kind of thing. And we've had some time off for various reasons, but we thought, what the heck? Let's put one out today and see what happens with it.
Yeah, so kind of the prequel to season 15. We're not quite there yet. We were just talking about this, and we may do some kind of like, for summer especially, let's just put an episode out there when we can. With everything going on, it's summertime, everything's busy, and we'll throw some episodes out and talk about some cool things over the summer here and there, and then hopefully in the fall we'll be able to get back into the full swing of things.
Sounds good.
Like we have been doing. Yeah. So I think that's good. I hope everybody is having a wonderful, wonderful summer and enjoying it. I know we've had a lot of Todd, how should I say this? Ups and downs in the past several months, and personal ups and
personal downs.
So I hope everybody's enjoying the nice weather and ready to take on the next few months of summer. I know I am. I am doing one of those sort of inward searching periods of my life where I'm just trying to be, it's the year of Sandy, I think I said on Facebook, where I'm just kind of, finding my own happiness and doing my thing. And I think we should all be doing that right now. The little things in our lives really keep us going. And so that's what I think we should be doing this summer and just enjoying ourselves. What have you been up to, Todd? I
think it's hilarious that if you're going to pick a year of Sandy, right, that you would choose 2025. That would be my last choice.
I know. But I kind of was forced into it. I have had some weird health scares. Not necessarily health issues, but health scares this year so far. And we're only in July. So everything right now looks okay. But it was pretty rough going. And everything that's happened in our country over the last 6 months, I felt like, this is going to be the year of self-care. I think it's important for all of us to take care of ourselves through everything, regardless of what it is, everything that's not so positive. And so it's the year of Sandy. So there.
Cool. Well, we were going to get together in Gettysburg this summer, which we are all very excited about. And due to some stuff on my end, was not able to make it. But you were able to go.
I was. Dave and I went. We took Spike down with us because we travel everywhere with the dog. And we went down in June. We went down on Thursday and we came home on Sunday. And in between, we had some amazing experiences, as always, in wonderful Gettysburg. And I kind of wanted to share a couple of them with you guys and with Todd, because I didn't get to tell Todd I kind of told you over Messenger and, stuff like that,
right.
But I didn't get to tell you the whole story. So, as everybody knows, I am totally enamored with, in love with, incredibly drawn to Gettysburg and have been for years. This was our 4th trip down. We were down there in 2023, in August of 2023, and we actually got to meet up with Deej from Diggin with Deej. And I'm going to put Deej's YouTube link in our show notes this week so that you guys can check out Deej if you haven't already, because she's just a really cool person, and you can follow her on Facebook too. And we met a handful of years ago. I was a guest a couple of times on her show. She does a lot of metal detecting. And, you know, Todd, as we all know, metal detecting has a tie to the past, which has a tie to the paranormal. And she's actually had plenty of experiences herself. She and I have worked together to help some of her friends when they were having issues. So we finally got to meet up with her in 2023, and that was a wonderful time. We had some great experiences at Sachs Bridge, communicating with a soldier. And so really looking forward to this visit down here this year. Now, I will say this. I was really, really excited to come down with you because we were going to go take a tour of the Gettysburg Orphanage, a nighttime tour of the Gettysburg Orphanage, which is infamous for its activity and negative history. And also the Jenny Wade house, which really wasn't Jenny's house. It was her sister's house. But Jenny was staying there during the battle to help bake bread for the soldiers, for the Union soldiers. And it's right in the middle of town and everything. And believe it or not, after all these years, I have never been to either one, the Gettysburg Orphanage or the Jenny Wade house. And the Gettysburg Orphanage, you can't even get into anymore unless you take the tour. So I was really excited to get in there with you and take the tour. But then when it turned out that you couldn't come down or out, I said, well, and I'm not good with this. I don't usually do this. But I said, I'm going to do this by myself because I have to get in there. I'm not the kind of person, honestly, that likes to go sit in a restaurant and eat by myself or, you know, go to a movie by myself. I've just never been that kind of person. But I said, I'm going to do this. So I did. And I had perhaps one of the most pronounced and, I don't know if life-changing is the word because I've had some incredible experiences in my life with the paranormal, with the afterlife. But it was certainly up there. I had an incredible experience on that tour, and I'll share it with everybody. But also, it was just nice to, it was the first time that we had never concentrated solely, like, mostly on the battlefield. I am so incredibly drawn to the land, the battlefield. And I've had so many experiences there. Dave and I were talking when we were driving around down there about the time that we both witnessed what I believe to be residual visible residual energy of 3 young boys right near Little Round Top, walking towards us somewhat in the middle of the road, to the point where Dave had to literally kind of go around them. Weren't looking at us. Young boys, about 14. One had a drum. One had a flag. One had like a bugle. I think they used bugles back then. Walking towards us slowly. And there was no reenacting going on on the battlefield that day. And not looking at us at all, not acknowledging us at all. And we had to literally go around them slowly. So we've had plenty of experiences. In 2023, I heard the rebel yell going up the hill of Little Round Top. There was nobody there. It was closed because they were renovating it, which, by the way, is absolutely gorgeous now. And for anyone who has been to Gettysburg before, or to anybody who hasn't been to Gettysburg before and intends to go, please go to Little Round Top. It is so amazing what they've done with it. Another thing that we did get to experience this time around was witness trees. Witness trees are found all around the battlefield. And this isn't the only location in the United States where you can find witness trees, but I had just heard about them and learned about them right before Gettysburg. So this became very important to me. And there's even a couple in town on Baltimore Street in Gettysburg. These are trees that were standing at the time of the battle. They were literally there to witness the Battle of Gettysburg. And some of them have had special tags put on them as designations of witness trees. And we got to see a few of them. There's a few of them at Little Round Top. And then perhaps the most special one was a beautiful one, and I'll post it in our group. It was the John Gibbon witness tree. And this was just down the road from the Pennsylvania Monument. And it was just, and me being the touchy kind of person and feeling the energy, this was a moment that was very profound for me because you could feel the energy coming off this tree. It was really an amazing moment to be able to touch something that had a connection to the battle, to the past. Just phenomenal. So I highly recommend, if you're planning on going to Gettysburg, look up Witness Trees Gettysburg on Google and find out all you can about them. There is a map on Google that you can use to kind of find out where they all are. Some of them have actually had to be cut down because they were not able to be saved. But there are plenty that are thriving. And even the ones that were cut down, the stumps are still there. And so it's just amazing. Okay, so back to the orphanage. So here's what happened. It was on Friday night, and the tour was from 10:30 to midnight, and we got 45 minutes in each building. So they have a new tour center in town where everybody meets up for tours, and it happens to be across the street from the orphanage, and then right down the street through the at the end of the tour center parking lot is the Jenny Wade House. So it's all in a very close proximity to each other. So we go, and my group had probably about, I would say 15 people. Now, I knew the general history of the orphanage, like the general story of the orphanage, but I didn't really know any details about the orphanage. All I knew is been on, let's see, Colby and Sam, Destination Truth, back when it was Destination Fear, the new iteration of it. They actually were here in October. They're in October, and that should be coming out soon. They're in Ghost Adventures has done it. Kindred Spirits has done it. So I knew that it had been done and that it was very active, but I didn't really know any of the minute history of it, just the main idea. So I wake up Friday morning, and immediately I get this image in my head and this name. And it's not anything unusual for me. Once I set my intention to something, usually though it's an investigation. It's not like just going on a tour, but it happens. I get names, I get pictures, I get movies in my head. I get, once they know that I'm coming, a lot of times they'll reach out to me. It happens every single time. So I get this little boy in my mind's eye. He's probably about 9 or 10, wearing dark pants that are, remember, I don't know if, Todd, we're too young for this, but high waters.
Oh, yeah. We're not too young. Waters. Yeah, I remember.
So they're not like long pants and they're not like knickers. They're sort of in the middle. And he's wearing dark pants like that. And he's got on a blue like linen or cotton shirt, buttoned up, short dark hair. And I get the name Billy. So I thought, all right, I didn't think too much of it. These things happen to me, so I'm fairly used to it. I didn't think too much of it. All day long, kept coming at me. No matter what we were doing on Thursday afternoon or Friday afternoon, it kept coming at me. So finally, I looked at Dave. We were sitting there. We came back to the Airbnb that we were renting, and we come back and we're sitting there to take a break around 5 o'clock or so. And I looked at him. I said, "I'm going to tell you something, because this has been on and off all day long, and it's driving me crazy. I don't know what this is. I have no idea. I'm thinking it could be having to do with the orphanage, but I'm going to tell you this so that when I come home, if I'm amazed, you'll know that I wasn't just, making this up. He says, okay. So I tell him the whole story. Billy. But it's funny because it also came to me that he wasn't really called Billy all the time. There was somebody in his life who called him Little B. So I'm wondering if at some point in his life when he did have parents, or a parent, that maybe he was like William Jr., because he was called Little B by some people. But that wouldn't have been at the orphanage. That would have been at another time in his life, right? So I tell Dave all of this stuff, and he says, okay, because Dave. Dave just takes it all in and goes with it, and he says, okay. So then I send you a message, and I said the same exact thing. I'm like, I don't know what the hell's going on right now, but this is like insistent. This isn't just like one time or whatever. I'm like, this is insistent. So you're like, okay. So there you go. Well, but I'm doing it as a record.
Yep.
So we get there. Dave drops me off at 10 o'clock. 10:30, there's the cat behind me. 10:30, we go across the street for the tour, and immediately when we walk in to the orphanage, Todd, you could feel the shift. You could feel the difference. And I thought to myself, I remember thinking to myself, oh, I'm in for a wild ride. Because it was like day and night. You could feel it. So when you first walk in, now back in the day, it's important to say too, that back in the day, it was originally a field hospital.
Okay.
During the battle. Okay. And then it didn't become the orphanage till after. It wasn't in the orphanage was created after the battle to help with the orphans as a result of the war, the Civil War. It's a long, involved story that I remembered, but I won't bore everybody with the whole story of it. But long story short, they hired a headmistress named Rosa Carmichael, who was horrific. She was not a child person. She didn't even like children. She had no experience in doing anything like that. And at one point they hired her, and she was horrific to these children. It is documented. This isn't just handed down wise tales or, lore over the years. She was horrific to these children. She was actually arrested and at one point in the end, and convicted of some atrocities, and they charged her like $8 in Civil War era, money, and made her leave. But there is evidence that she actually never left. But she would be horrible to them, and she would lock them down in the cellar. She would chain them to the walls. She would withhold food from them. She had I can't remember his name, but there was an older teenager that lived there in the orphanage, and she would use him to do all her bidding. And he would be the one who would carry out a lot of the beatings and a lot of the things that went on there. And believe me, let me just say, I didn't expect it to be a walk in the park. I knew that I was going to pick up things. It wasn't like I was, shocked. But I will say, when I walked across the threshold, it hit me like a ton of bricks, and I wasn't expecting it that quickly. So when you walk in, there's a stairway going upstairs to the left, or you can walk straight ahead. I thought this was interesting, Todd, that on the second and third floor, there are apartments. There's an apartment on the second floor, and there's an apartment on the third floor. The second floor apartment is lived in by one of the other tour guides. He said that the first night that this wasn't our tour guide, but he said that the first night he moved in there was a woman standing over his bed at one point, who he thought could be Rosa Carmichael. And that he has doors. He hasn't seen her since, but doors will open and close, slam shut, cupboards will open and close up there. I'm sorry, you couldn't get me to live in that building. Whether you're a sensitive and intuitive or not, you couldn't get me to live in that building. So then if you go straight off to the right, it's very small. And buildings back then were not big, wide, expansive buildings. They were rather thin types of buildings. You go in and there's a room on the right that is set up with like picnic table type of tables, benches, long benches and stuff. So whenever I do any tour, alone apparently or not, I like to be in the end, at the back of the line, because I like to take my time and really get a feel for where I am, whether it's paranormal related or not. I like to be able to feel where I am and be more in control. So I let everybody go ahead of me, and I was last. And as a result, I sat, if you walk in the room, you go to the right and you go through the door. And if you're looking straight ahead, there was one table in the very back of the room opposite the door where I sat. And the lady who was our guide, she was great. She was actually originally up from near where I live in Mexico, New York. Originally, she came down to do this. She's been an investigator. I was talking to her. She's been an investigator for over 20 years. She's also a psychic medium. So she has had plenty of experiences and things. She's really nice. And no sooner did we sit down and the door to the hallway was open. No sooner did we sit down, but I hear a voice to the left of me in the hallway. There was no mistaking it. It was a voice. It was a high voice. I'm not sure if it was a child. It was female. I'm not sure if it was a child or if it was like a young female. Like a yell kind of thing. And it was high pitched. And I immediately turned my head to the doorway to the hallway because that's where it was. Without a doubt, that's where it was. And by then it was about 11:45. So, and it was early in the Gettysburg season, even in June. So, there wasn't much out on the street. Nobody was walking around at 11:15 at night on the street. It's not a party town. You know what I mean? Like, there's breweries and stuff in town, but it's not a party town. There's nobody except the occasional traffic out there. So I knew it couldn't have been somebody walking by. And we were back in the building a bit, so I didn't think that it would be anybody from the street anyways. And I immediately turned, and I'm looking at the women. Now, we're in the dark, but I'm looking at the women kitty corner to me that are just inside the doorway on the door side. They're not reacting at all. So I'm like, what the heck? Am I hearing this psychically? You know, just me picking up on it? Or is it audible and maybe they're just pretending they didn't hear it or they didn't realize what they heard? So after we got done with the spiel, that was the room where everybody would eat meals. When we got done with that and we were getting ready to go to the basement, I asked the two women, I said, excuse me, I said, did you hear the high-pitched voice out in the hallway? They looked at me like I was from Mars. So I was like, well, maybe it was psychic. Maybe I heard it psychically. I don't know. So I was like, okay. But now I'm like rubbing my hands together. I'm like, ooh, this is great, you know? So I'm getting my money's worth. I'm actually experiencing stuff, and I've been in here 3 minutes. So we go down in the basement. Oh boy. The basement is a whole other animal. When you go downstairs in the basement, and this is where all of the horrific things, or most of the horrific things would happen.
Yeah.
When you go down in the basement, you go down these old kind of rickety steps, and they have benches along the wall on one end so that everybody can sit there while she tells the story and the history and, you know, that kind of stuff. And this was kind of funny, Todd. I thought you'd get a kick out of this. She has 2 K2 meters that she hands out, and everybody can pass them around, and I didn't touch it because I I don't need to know. Let them have their fun with it. Let them have their excitement, right? But I will say this. This was odd, and I'd love your thought on this. Yes, we were in an area where there obviously was electricity. The basement is pure stone, but I have been in basements that were stone but were wired and were essentially a fear cage.
Right.
Because of the fact that there's just so much EMF down there to begin with that you can't take readings because the readings are false. You can't get a true reading down there unless you put it in one of the, what do you call them? But anyways, the things that, I can't think of the name of it, where, it blocks out the EMF. I'm trying to think of the word, but I can't. But anyways, so yes, I know that there was some of that. But these K2 meters were like not stopping. They were high. They were like to the red, non-stop. It was kind of weird, I have to say. And I know that there was some wiring down there, but they essentially do the basement in the dark. So they don't have a ton of wiring down there. So I did think that was very interesting that the K2s were clearly on red the entire time. Like there was no, and you could cut the residual energy down there with a knife. I mean, it was like walking through a fog down there. So again, I was the last one going down, and I sat on the last space at the bottom of the, closest to the bottom of the stairs. And she went through, the tour guide was great. She went through some stories and told, what happened down there and everything. And to your left, the other half of the basement is a doorway. And she was explaining that one of the things that Rosa Carmichael would do was put these children into this carved out room in the basement. And I don't know what its original use was for, but put them in this room and chain them to the wall and make them sit there in the dark for hours and hours. And she wouldn't feed them or anything like that. And so our tour guide said, I'll take 5 or 6 people at a time and we can go in and you can look at it if you want. And I said, well, I'm not missing out on this. Now, don't forget, too, that this was also a field hospital during the battle.
Yeah.
So more than likely, at children aside, there was probably amputations going on in that basement, that cellar. There were dead bodies stacked up. There are many stories of Gettysburg field hospitals where they didn't have anything they could do with them, so they would stack them either outside the windows of the build. They throw body parts. They'd put dead bodies outside of the field hospital, stack them up to the windows, and until they could figure out what to do with them. So there were probably stacked up bodies in there. I know the Cashtown Inn had stacked up bodies in its basement, things like that. So there was that energy, that residual energy or intelligent energy. And there was also the children's energy. And I have to say that as I was sitting there on the bench before I even went in the room, I was leaning back against the wall, the stone wall of the basement, and I felt, without letting myself get emotional, I could feel so much turmoil and just, I had to pull myself back up from the wall. The whole place down there is just like you could cut it with a knife. So I went to the doorway, and again, I was last, and everybody kind of looked, and then I went in, and I said to the tour guide, I said, do you mind if I go in there a little bit? Because I really wanted to experience it and feel it, because this is a part of history. Whether it's a good part of history, a bad part of history, it's still a part of history. And she said, sure, you can go in. So I kind of crawled in there, and it was probably one of the saddest, worst feelings I may have ever experienced in this kind of situation, in this context of an investigation, I guess you could say. You go through this little cutout in the wall, and the room is fairly large. There were places they found chained to it. Over the years, people have left things for the children. There's dolls in there. There's toys in there.
Dolls.
Yeah, I know. Believe me. And so they've been left in there. I did take some pictures. Again, I'm going to share them. I didn't want to share them in our group just yet because I wanted to wait until we had a conversation about it. I did take some pictures, but then something happened to me that, I mean, I keep saying, then something happened to me. It's like nonstop. As I backed out, my heart started racing so badly that it felt like it was going to jump out of my chest. I almost lost my breath at one point. Yes, I almost lost my breath at one point, and I didn't want to panic, but I was really, really scared because that was not me. That was not me. I don't know if I was absorbing the panic, the fear, the terror that was, I don't know what happened. I don't know if somebody, I hesitate to say this, but I don't know if somebody actually tried to connect with me because of the way it happened so quickly when I withdrew from it. So, in other words, as I'm coming out of the room, that's when it comes over me. Almost like, don't leave me, right? Don't leave me here. Don't leave me here. And I don't know if somebody was trying to connect with me and reach out to me, if I was just taking on the residual fear. I have no idea. I don't know. And I've had a couple weeks to think about this, and I just don't know. It's sort of like when I did the investigation at the old tavern a few years ago, and something came at me from behind and knocked me a little bit. And I'm not sure if it was something went through me. I don't know if something pushed me. To this day, I still don't know. But it was a feeling that I have never had before. Yet again, a new thing, a new experience to kind of try to ponder. But as soon as I backed out of the initial doorway and back into the other part of the basement where it was just plain residual, I started to feel better. And then I was absolutely fine.
Wow.
So that long story, I know, but I wanted to set it up and put it in context for the experiences that happened to me in this location that I was not expecting at all. So we went up. I just really wanted to get in there, Todd. I wasn't expecting to connect. I wasn't expecting to experience a voice. I wasn't expecting anything.
Right.
I just wanted to get in there and see what it was for myself, right? So then we go across the street to the Jenny Wade house. Jenny Wade house, completely different energy vibes. Yes, she died in the house. I get that. But not everybody who dies in a house is going to leave necessarily dark, ominous energy with them. Lots of people live in homes where people have died in the house and they don't have that kind of energy. And this is a case. Now, they do have activity in there, but this is not the same thing. It was like night and day. I said, like, being outside and then going in the orphanage was night and day. Well, this was like night and day, the orphanage to Jenny Wade house. So we go through the Jenny Wade house. We get to the last room. Again, I'm last because I want to take pictures. I want to feel things. Yep. I want to experience what I can. And I'm half paying attention. And doesn't the guide start talking about Billy?
Oh, my gosh.
Full circle, full circle, full circle. And I missed part of the story because the very first part of the story, just when she got to the name Billy. So I asked the ladies next to me, and of course they weren't paying attention because it doesn't matter to them. It's not, it's just a ghost story. Well, apparently I did find this out. apparently there was a little boy at the orphanage who was named Billy, who was about 10 years old, who, because he wasn't fed a lot of the children would come out of the orphanage and go to the neighboring homes to see if someone would give them food. This is all documented. This is not, a story. And Billy was one of the children that would do that. And he would come to Jenny's sister's house all the time, and they would feed him. And his name was Billy, and he was 10 years old. And I thought right there, Todd, I was going to have a heart attack. Because when I got through the orphanage without any mention of a Billy, I thought, oh, okay, maybe it has to do with something else. There could be something having to do with the battlefield. Who knows? I wasn't thinking of a connection between Jenny Wade and Billy.
Right.
But I guess there wasn't a connection. So, boy, was I proud of myself. I was feeling pretty good after that one because I was like, this is why this, and who knows if Billy was actually who reached out to me, potentially, who connected with me in the basement. I don't know.
Interesting.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, it's a possibility. Why would he be reaching out to me? But I thought it was very interesting that the connection between Jenny Wade House and the orphanage, where you wouldn't think there would be one, essentially had that connection. And I actually got that connection before the actual tour. So, needless to say,
I missed out on a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Bye. No, it was an experience. Normally, when I come to Gettysburg, it's a different experience. Normally, when I come to Gettysburg, it's, the land. It's the battlefield itself. And that's my main connection. I never thought that I would be connected in such a way in a different part of the town, and in such a meaningful way, because you take it personally. You take it very personally. Did have my protection on me.
Good.
I do feel, though, as if most of, not all, but the majority of everything that I experienced in there was very much residual energy. It was just a heaviness. But you could feel it. You could feel the emotions with it, but it was a residual energy. But I will say that I am so thankful that I said, I'm going to go do this by myself and I'm going to experience it. And it kind of opened the door for me. And this is just something for everybody to think about. It kind of opened the door for me to want to do more stuff like that. Yeah. Experience things on my own too, and not be afraid to do it or uncomfortable doing it, because you're going to have experiences that you never would have had otherwise, So, but that's my story. I don't know. What do you think?
And she's sticking to it.
I'm sticking to it.
Well, typical you, the person starts talking about Billy and you're off in your own little world.
I know. I was, but I wasn't expecting it, we were on the last room of the tour, of the house of the tour. And so I was like, I had already given up. I didn't even think about it. But yet here comes Billy, making himself known, So it was very cool. It was very cool. And, a lot of times in the beginning, I was very afraid of my abilities. Everybody has different abilities. No two people's abilities are quite the same.
Right.
Similar, but not quite the same. And so I was kind of afraid at first until I decided that I was going to embrace it and kind of learn. And it never stops amazing me. Other people may be like, oh, that's cool, you got a name. Well, I got a name. That's pretty amazing, to me and stuff. And so it never gets old for me. I'm always trying to understand it and develop it more. And I will say this definitely brought me to another level in my journey and my learning. So it was cool. So, but we're gonna meet up. I told you should come to Buffalo.
I would go to Buffalo.
Buffalo. I know. There's so many places we could go out there. Oh my gosh. We could even go to Lilydale.
What's Lilydale?
Lilydale is very, very famous. It's just south of Buffalo. And it's a village, a town of all psychics. They all live in this town, and they have retreats, and they have conventions, and they have, you can go there for readings. You can do all kinds of stuff there. It's a very kind of almost sacred place. And it has been for years, and everybody knows about. As a matter of fact, Deej actually messaged me a couple of weeks ago about Lilydale and said, have you ever been to Lilydale? I'm like, no, it's kind of a far drive for us to just drive out there. But it's like 3.5 hours. But if we were going to be in Buffalo, we could definitely do Lilydale too and check that out. So lots of stuff we could do. So we'll figure it out.
That seems kind of creepy. I don't know.
Who knows? You gotta experience it.
Yeah. And then you don't come back because they eat your brains and all that kind of stuff.
Well, you know what? There's also places out there that we could do that have been on kindred spirits and all those kinds of things. So it would be fun. So we'll have to figure it out. We will figure it out.
All right.
It's only been 3 years. Only been 3 years, Todd.
It'll be great.
Brother.
It'll be great.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
All right, I love you.
We'll be back again soon at some point.
We will. We just wanted to talk about this, and I'm going to share some pictures, and we'll be back. Just everybody enjoy the summer, and maybe in the fall, once things quiet down a little bit, we'll get back on our regular schedule. But also, one thing I wanted to say is I've been thinking about getting back into Sandy Cemeteries and doing it on a more regular basis. So let me know what you guys think about that. I would love to do that. I love sharing the stories of those that are no longer here, and I think it would be kind of cool to get back into that more often, especially over the summer. So let me know what you think about that, and if you have any ideas of things you'd like us to talk about, we are always open. You can get all of our contact details right in the show notes.
Sounds good.
All right.
Well, until next time, I guess all we have to say is bye.
Bye.
We make podcasting easy. Mindgarden Media can get you going on your very own podcast. With many years in the broadcast and audio industry, Mindgarden Media can edit, fully produce, and provide all the web distribution services. We're podcasters too, so we'll guide you every step of the way to a professional-sounding podcast production. For information, email the Mindgarden Media at gmail.com, the Mindgarden Media at gmail.com, or check us out on Facebook.